everyone, it's Lexi, and today I'll be doing kind of like my review and discussion of The Plum Tree by Ellen Marie Wisemen, which was the Tales and Teacups book club pick of the month for the month of March. So without further ado, let's get started. So this video is going to be split into two different sections. The first one will be like more of my spoiler-free review, and then like the second part will be a discussion, so don't worry about being spoiled for anything now. I'll warn you when I kind of go into details about the novel. And hey guys, so I pre-filmed my review of The Plum Tree last week, so one of you in the book club has also submitted a video response, which I'll have after like my non-spoilery section, so that will be included in there as well. So yeah, I will link her channel down below as well, so you can go check her out. But yeah, thank you so much for participating. So let's just jump into the video. So to start out, I was very excited to kind of pick up this book. I read What She Left Behind by the same author a couple years ago, and that was probably one of my favorite books of 2015. So I was really excited to kind of finally pick this one up. And it follows a girl named Christine, who is a young woman growing up during Nazi Germany. And the novel starts out in 1938, just the beginning of the war, and Christine kind of struggles with the new laws that are put in place by the Nazis that prohibit anyone from having a relationship with like anyone Jewish or being associated with anyone, and she specifically struggles with it because her boyfriend is Jewish, so that leads to a lot of problems there. So I was, like I said, I was really looking forward to this one. I felt like I particularly really enjoy World War II novels, so I think like I feel a mix between my love for World War II novels and like also like the fact that I really enjoyed her other work. I feel like the bar was set a little too high, like my expectations were a little too high for this book. So that being said, I had a hard time in the beginning really getting into this novel. I feel like because the author ended up putting in way too much detail about the town and too much description. It was like reading Charles Dickens, where he literally went on like a 4-page rant about the blue sky. So it was kind of like that, and like the author would go into so much detail. She would basically describe everything from the bumps in the road to every blade of grass, like, or the ladybug on the blade of grass with it. Like, so it was like a lot of like too much detail, so I felt like it was really hard to kind of get into it. I know she was trying to probably paint a picture of this German town, but it was just like it was a little too excessive, and it was just hard to immerse myself into the story when like the plot can be moving on but we're still talking about the blade of grass. Like, it was like a little frustrating sometimes, especially that like it's more relevant within like the first like quarter of the novel, and then like the amount of description kind of weans off after there. But the pacing of the novel was somewhat off to me as well. The novel basically covers the whole span of the war, so like from approximately 1938 to 1945. So it covers a big chunk of history within being under like 350 pages, maybe even less than that. So like I found it to be very rushed at times. Like some chapters would cover like the course of like 2 years, and like, or like a paragraph would span like 2 to 3 months, or cover like a couple different seasons. So it was hard, like the pacing of it, like you'd focus like on here, flash forward a year and a half, so now we're here, and it was just like hard to keep track of where we actually were like in the actual place in like history, and try to figure out, okay, what's actually going on with the like war at this time. So it was hard to kind of keep track of all that. And lastly, I had a hard time getting attached to the main characters, and specifically like the relationship between Christine and Isaac. The book does not give us enough time to actually see their relationship to develop and kind of flourish. It kind of starts out as like kind of a teenage crush that's like all consuming, and like you don't actually really get to see the relationship bloom, and like it kind of just was like a kind of immature childhood crush, and I had a hard time really being invested in like actually caring about it. And I felt like a lot of disconnect, so that was like a really big thing because the novel is kind of centered around their relationship. So it was like I don't know, like it was interesting because I read the little description thing at the back, and the author was talking about how like she liked how Titanic, they built like a kind of romance around a historical event, and she tried to do that with this novel. So like, I don't know, like I feel like because so many people love like Rose and Jack, and at this place I was like, and you kind of believe in that relationship, but like you didn't really get to see that here as well. So it's just like, I don't really care much for this like relationship. Of course, like these bad things are happening, which is unfortunate, but it's just like, it wasn't very believable for me. And so like also there was a bit of disconnect between many of the other characters as well. So Christine's sister Marie had a very interesting background and kind of pivotal point in the story towards the end, and I felt like we could get like more out of that. Like like her background had so much potential to be developed and flourished into something so much more than it actually was. So that was like, she was the only one that I kind of really found interesting, and then like not much was really done with that. And then also like Christine's family as well, like I didn't really care much for like her family, like maybe her mother, so, but like her grandparents, her brothers, like, and then her father, like there wasn't, I don't know, like I just wasn't really connected to them and like invested in their story. And just like, that's a bit unfortunate too, because like this, like families went through similar things during this time in history. So like, I don't know, like it was really unfortunate because it does have that historical aspect to it where similar things were going on at this point in time, and that's a little unfortunate. And then Christine as a character was very irritating, I found. Like, so I understand it's important to show like how, and I really like this aspect of the novel, how it showed that not all Germans kind of agreed with Hitler's ideology and like had his mindset. However, she like was very brash and she didn't really think things through. So like, there were many instances where her, like the consequences for her actions, like she doesn't think things through and doesn't think like, oh, this could fall back to my family, like this could threaten my family's safety. And like, there's many times I wanted to like reach in the book and actually like shake her and be like, keep your mouth shut. Like, I understand you want to like stand up for what is right, but when it comes to like life or death between your family, like, I know, like it was really frustrating at times, and like she really irritated me. And then, so overall I had pretty mixed feelings about this book. The last quarter of the book is what really gripped me, like had me on the edge of my seat and actually kind of care what was going on. But at the end it did feel a little rushed. I felt like less time could be spent dragging on leading up to this point, and then it all happened so quickly, so it was just like, okay, yeah. It was just really just disappointing. Like, there were some aspects that I really liked, and then like you could tell like this is the author's like first novel and she has improved a lot. I felt, yeah, like there so much could have been, this novel could have been so much more, but it kind of just fell flat. So I'm being very generous with a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm probably leaning towards a 2.5 at this point. I don't know, I think because I've read so many other great World War II novels, and it's like a little frustrating at times, because it was just like, I know this author can do so much better than this, and like, I don't know. I was really just kind of disappointed with it. So don't let this kind of deter you away from reading like What She Left Behind. That one was like really good. So yeah, she has grown a lot as an author, so that's good to see. This is not the best World War II book I've read, but yeah, I don't know. I know some people will probably really like this. I'm just really critical because World War II is like my genre that I like. Historical fiction is what I like to read, so I'm very like picky about what I read. So for my favorite quote, it is, "I want you to understand something. War makes perpetrators of some, criminals of other, and victims of everyone. Just because a soldier is in the battle doesn't mean that he believes in the war." And I really like that point because I think it's important that like not everyone who fought for Germany during World War II, like the foot soldiers, like were Nazis and kind of went along with it. They were kind of forced into fighting in that war anyway. So now we are going to go jump into Renee's video. So let's just go jump on into that.
Hey Lexi, Renee Little here. I'm super excited to talk about this book. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars, I think, on Goodreads. I wish Goodreads would do like half stars, because I wanted to give it a 3.5, because it wasn't quite a 4 for me, but it wasn't quite a 3. Like, when you see a 3, you think, oh, that person hated that book. I don't. I actually enjoyed reading this book. So I read this book in about 2 days. So it was a super fast read for me, which I really like. Even if I really love a book, if it's not something that I can consume quickly, it's almost like a mark against it. I know that's probably really unfair, because things happen and I don't read or whatever. But if I can get through a book really quickly, that's like it immediately is like boosted in my mind. So that was one thing that it had going for it. It was a quick read for me, and I enjoyed that. I actually liked the love story in this. I was convinced by the love story, and I liked that it was there. The whole, and I think you mentioned this in your review that you wrote, but the whole, that was almost all she thought about was a little bit annoying, despite, because everything going on, because it's set in World War II, right? So it's just, she had other things to think about, which she did. I don't think there was so much, of that I would stop reading it. So I didn't completely knock Christine for kind of the all-consuming, above everything else love she felt for Isaac, only because while there was a ton of crap going on that was horrible and way more important, I guess, of romance, at the same time, with all this shit going on, you need people. She had her family, but she was kind of losing her friend, and all this other stuff was happening. And so if you have something, even if it's just this, romance or young love or whatever you want to call it, I don't blame her for going all in and putting herself into this kind of all-consuming romance because of everything that was going on. I marked a few things I just wanted to say. For a full star, I took a full star off for the fact that they're speaking, it's written in English, but they're speaking German, because they talk about how so-and-so is learning English, but then they say things like Guten Tag, or that's written out as Guten Tag, or Ach, or Nein. What else do they do? They just say a whole bunch of German words. She writes out a whole bunch of German words, yeah, here's 9. I marked a bunch of them. Yeah, words like ja. You don't need to do that. You, bitte. We know what you're speaking German. We assume that, we know that. You don't need to put the German words in there to make it seem like it just seems weird. It seems weird. It seems like English people saying 1 or 2 German words every once in a while, which kind of took me out of the story a little bit. I really, really loved the sister relationship in this between Christine and her younger sister, which of course I'm forgetting her name at the moment, but I really, really loved that. The things that slowly started happening, I found really fascinating. So a lot of the times you read World War II novels, or at least the ones that I've read, even if they're not historical fiction, or even if they are historical fiction, they tend to all of a sudden everything was bad. And so people, you wonder how did the Nazis get away with what they did? And this book really, I thought, demonstrated that really well. Just the little things that built up that people kind of just well, this'll change. Like Christine in the book kept saying, well, it'll be different. I'll see you when it's over. When it's when it goes away, when it dies down, like it's gonna die down, right? Like they're not that, they can't be that crazy, right? And then they replace everybody's radios, and I wonder if that actually did happen. I'm assuming it did, but I'm not gonna go off of this since it's not a historical fiction, but replacing the radios and just the little rules here and there, and you can it kind of really illustrates well how that kind of thing could happen. Because people, the whole thing, right, is how did the Nazis get away with that? How did the German people let that happen? Well, it happened so gradually and through all these little things that they thought would go away and then of course it kind of snowballed, and then all of a sudden, you look around like, holy moly, what's going on? So I thought it did that also really well. So I did overall enjoy this book. I didn't mind the love story. I didn't love the love story. It wasn't like a huge part for me. I was more interested in like what was happening around her in terms of the Nazi occupation and things like that. But I'm glad you chose this book. It was good. I enjoyed it. And yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Renee, for participating in this. I think it's really good to get the different viewpoints, I think, from this. Especially, I like how you talked about how like the author integrated like the German language into it. And I feel like in some books, especially because it is written in English, like some books can pull it off well, but I felt like some of it to be a little awkward at times. And like I agree, like it was just kind of, especially like there is some collaboration with some English, like American soldiers that speak English. So it was like, I don't know, like it was really kind of, that was a little awkward, and you kind of like, it kind of takes you outside of the book, that perspective as well. And I like how you talk about, yeah, so I also kind of like mentioned this in the review that like it was important to show kind of like the German perspective of like the war, and like not everyone like kind of went along with it, and how like they like how the Nazis eventually kind of like rose to power and all that. So like just how like it was like small gradual things that people thought would kind of go away. And yeah, like I think that's just really important to show that German perspective, because I feel like a lot of the books that are written about World War II are from like the Allies' perspective. So I think that's really interesting as well, just kind of seeing that. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for sending in your video response. It's always good to kind of see everyone's review and perspective of this. So yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like my non-spoilery section. I don't know what else to discuss in here because like, I don't know, I think I'll just leave it here at this, and then if you want to discuss more about it, because like clearly I had a lot to say about it and problems. So if you've read this, please let me know, and just kind of discuss it in the comments down below. So yeah, let me know what you felt about this one, because it was just like, I was like all over the place with this. And yeah, I'll leave my link to my Goodreads review down below if you want to see that as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and kind of participating in my book club. I have, for the month of April, let me see, I have the book here. We will be reading Modern Girls by Jennifer S. Brown. So yeah, I have a video of this. I'll link it up in the description and the cards and all that, so you can go check that out if you're interested. So hopefully this one will be not a downer as last time. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.